Hello, my name's John Thorne from Thorny Motorsport, and this is another in our series of videos on the McLaren supercars. And this one, slightly different from the car, is going to be an update for a buyer's guide for the McLaren 720S and 720S Spider. Now, we were done a buyer's guide before, but it was quite early on, a few years back. And even though there are lots of similarities in the cars, we thought it was worth updating with some of the specific things sometimes we see on 720 McLarens in terms of wear and tear and what to look for if you're buying one, and what to look for in terms of general maintenance. So, as I said, the car, they pretty much all run the same gearbox. The 720 is different, having the 4-litre engine, not the 3.8, so there are subtle differences there, but we're doing a separate video about engine issues. But for the purposes of the cars themselves, they are remarkably similar. They use remarkably similar components and designs, and in some cases are completely identical. Therefore, things we're looking for in terms of a buyer's guide for someone buying a car or someone looking for maintenance are pretty similar. As always with these things, we recommend you buy any McLaren on condition. So have a full inspection done by someone who knows what they're doing to look at the car. Even refer them to the video to look at it if need be, because that sort of thing can help. Mileage is less of an issue. Condition, how it's looked after, certainly is. Start at the front of the car. These things, these little aerodynamic strakes, etc. This the 720s have 4, the other series have got 2. This has all 4. Pretty impressive. You know, we not often see all 4 in a car, to be honest. Setting is worth checking. These things here, these are the guides again for the brake duct cooling as well. These things are very comb coming off as well, so they're not expensive parts, but keep an eye on that. And also front end, have a look at the damage underneath. As you can see, there are some strikes on this one. It's to be expected. It's a low car. This one has a hole punched in it though, so that one we probably recommend at least put a patch over that to make sure no extra water gets underneath. These aren't waterproof items, so you do get water above. Staying at the front of the car, looking at the front, obviously check the brake condition of pads, check the condition of the calipers as well. They can rust sometimes on the 720s, but on all models. The main thing to look for is the upper and lower arms. Now they all have bushes. They're all a metal and rubber bush. They are a wear and tear item. They do wear out. So as a result of that, it's worth checking. Get a pry bar in there, see how much movement you've got, and see whether they perish or not. Cars that have been parked up for long periods of time tend to perish on the outside, so that when they start moving, they start to crack on the inside and you're replacing. Now, we haven't seen many on the 720 so far, but there have been a few. It's the Achilles heel on the 675 in all honesty, because those bushes are hideously expensive in comparison to the Super Series and Sport Series cars. Other thing worth checking is obviously the accumulators, which we've done a separate video on, I'll link it somewhere, and also suspension. We have seen broken springs and we have seen leaking suspension on the 720s already, so on 3-4-year-old cars. We do have a new spring replacement coming for them, but at the meantime we're limited to a brand new shop from McLaren, which for 720 is anywhere from £1,800 to £2,500. Not cheap. So checking those ones, looking for weeks around the seals, checking the springs, especially on the bottom of the spring. It's quite hard to see sometimes. That's where they tend to break, on the bottom of the spring itself. Primarily more on the rear than on the front. Moving out in the car, look for any signs of impact, which is obviously something you want to be concerned about. And then obviously the rear under trays must be removed from the car to see all of this sort of stuff. Now first things first, the gearbox. This is a little telltale hole for the gearbox leak here, which I'll show later. Now, we've not seen many gearbox issues with 720s, a couple, but I think they resolved all the problems as the bills have gone through in terms of the market. So something to keep an eye on straight away. Any kind of oil down there is worth checking. Now there could be oil there because the gearboxes do have breathers. So they'll breathe out the top when they get too hot. That's perfectly fine, that's what they're supposed to do. But excess oil down there, or more importantly, oil coming from that telltale oil, that's the problem worth looking at. Generally speaking, the engine and everything else will be very reliable. We've had a couple of issues. Oil pumps. For some reason, oil pumps on 720s are more prone to failing than others, which is interesting. We've, on our own 720 it failed, and that only after 4,000 miles. So it's something to consider. Water pumps, same thing. It's a standard water pump across the range. They tend to fail as well with a little metal bung clip. Basically leaks. It's a replacement water pump. Clips. Sticking with the clip issue. As you can see, these are crappy little clips that they still use. Now, majority of 720 clips are better. Okay, we rarely see the sign of, you know, beach bus side of the road issues you do tend to get with 720, 650s and 12Cs. So we don't recommend an automatic clip replacement 720s. But where you've seen some movement, and this car is none, which is great, we recommend putting on a better motorsport clamp rather than these little cheap throwaway clips that they use on most of the cars. But they have improved, so they are better. Mainly for the 720 oil leaks. Okay, so obviously the oil pump is one. You tend to get some of the oil feed lines and drain lines from the turbos, bank one especially, tend to weep a little bit. This main oil feed here, that can crack at the bottom of the connector, and that's quite common. Less than 720s, more than 650s, but something to keep an eye of. The oil catch tanks and the oil tanks themselves are now fine. Haven't seen problems though since they went to a welded item rather than another one. Moving further back from here, again, suspension, checking the springs, checking the accumulators. These are all items that will fail, sadly, but it's worth checking these. But again, on the bushes, upper and lower arm bushes are specifically something to consider in terms of failure points as well. Moving to the top of the car, well, that's the other side of the car done. Following to look at the bushes, anti-roll bar, well, the top of the anti-roll bar, but what it does. Checking also the coil cooler and various bits on top as well. All right, so that's underneath the car. What we'll do now is drop the car down and look at the top. Now this is a coupe, so the first thing we recommend you check on the coupe is a Gorilla Glass. Now this has Gorilla Glass roof. They tend to crack, normally in the front corners. Now they have been replaced in warranty in most of the case, and for the most time they've mostly replaced them now, but they're £3,500 each. So if it hasn't got carbon fibre infill and got Gorilla Glass, just make sure the fitment's correct on there, because they do crack and turn that. Also, when you lift the door up, just check the hinge is working properly. The hinge has been also known to cause some movement, and that also cracks the glass as well. Other than that, looking at bodywork, now again, there's been various videos we've done, and other people have done about the corrosion side for McLaren cars. It's technically not corrosion, but what it's basically looking at is an interlaminar issue with the composite panels and a reaction of primer and paint on the aluminium panels. 720s are affected, not as many, but they are affected. So certainly recommend a full check, and we do an inspection here, we check all of them. What you're looking for is around the panel edges, leading edge of the bonnet, leading edge of the door, leading edge of the wings, on the side blades. They're common process to go, but also around the boot and around the rear bumpers. Carbon fibre is unaffected, thankfully, so you have a complete carbon fibre car. Ignore this part of the video, but you've had £500,000, so you're okay. Other than that, in terms of interior, make sure things are all working. If the tune doesn't work, get used to it. They're all pretty crap, none of them work very well. One thing we have seen so far is inspect under the front dash compartment in front of the steering wheel. We have seen now at least one McLaren with a mileage cheater. Okay, that means where it's not recording the mileage on the car. Okay, illegal, unlawful and immoral, but we've seen one. We recommend you check now. We now include it as part of our vehicle checks just to make sure. If one person's done it, sure as hell other people have tried as well. And obviously mileage is a relation issue to the value of supercars. Rest of the bodywork's normally pretty good. You can check for panel gaps. If it's an early car, it'll be shit. If the later cars will be slightly better, but generally speaking, the launch edition cars were the worst of the lot to the panel gaps. It's all fixable. We've had several cars here. We've just taken the panels off, refit them, respace them, and it's perfectly fine. So it's not a question of the panels being poor. It's simply refitting a bit better. Other than that, the rest of the car is very good. Check the air brake function on a road test if you can. You're looking for the air brake function to work on error or not. And also on the suspension accumulators on a road test. Again, we've done another video about it. Road test the car and try all different settings, from track to sport to comfort. The car should feel different. If it feels the same in crash heat and comfort mode, it's an indication of the accumulators on the way out. Ditto error codes on the dash as well. But appreciate if you're looking at the car, it's kind of hard to interrogate the ECU without a diagnostic kit. Not easy. Now we do sell a kit, but it's £7,000, so hardly the sort of thing you buy as just buying a car. That's pretty much it. General sort of thing, working out, looking at condition of it. What's the Alcantara like? What's the overlook of it? Example. The exhaust will be a bit pissed. The right hand side will always kick out to the right because the downpipe's too short for an OEM one. So an aftermarket exhaust seems to have copied the OEM one, and they're just as bad. So the exhaust is a bit out one side. Again, when we custom make exhaust, we fix it. But generally, even the sports exhausts do have that slight kink when they get hot. It's just part of the colour. It will, however, if you have a badly fitted exhaust, burn the bumper. So beware, look at the bumper, the condition of the paint there, or PPF is there. If you're starting to melt and come off, it's an issue you have to deal with at some point in time. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Hard thing to do these videos, remembering it all in one go, one hit, but generally they're a good car. Check the oil level again. We know how to do oil level. There's various videos we've done for that as well, and condition overall. But that kind of inspection needs to give you a chance. And that's kind of hard to do without a ramp and the on trays off and everything else is there. But at least if you have the opportunity, if you're on the garage, look at it, point this video, at least get an idea of that and get an idea what you're going to buy. All right, hope that's useful. Thanks for watching. Next video, by the way, is all about engines. So it's taken us a while to compile it all to different engines and things, but hopefully that'll be interesting when it comes out as well. All right, cheers.